Hey there everyone, Annie here with Quilt Barn. Christmas time is just around the corner and we thought it'd be a super fun project to make a stocking from some of the super soft Cuddle fabric from Shannon. So as you see here, I have the 2 layers of Cuddle, I have 2 layers of lining, and also 2 layers of batting. I'm just going to use their template to cut all the layers together, because why not? I'm using a rotary cutter for the straight parts, and then I ended up using scissors for the more rounded, because it's so thick it's hard to do accurately with the rotary cutter. Quilt also has a die that is this template, so if you're lucky enough to have an Quilt, you can do that. But however you get there, go ahead and cut out all the layers this shape, and go ahead and get rid of the extra lint and fuzzies that are just part of working with Cuddle. This is a C3 Cuddle, I believe, and so it's not that bad. You can see here I just kind of brush it off and into the trash. If you're using some of the more luxurious Cuddles, you'll want to have a hand vacuum nearby where you can just, once you've cut your cut, you can quickly vacuum up those fuzzies so they don't get all over the place. For the cuff, I'm using a black Cuddle that's a little bit thicker than the stocking. You can obviously do whatever combo you want to do. Just go ahead and cut that out according to the pattern. And you'll see here I did grab the vacuum because this Cuddle is quite a bit thicker and therefore the fuzz is harder to deal with. Go ahead and set that extra piece to the side. And I'm going to use this 505 glue stick to help me baste the batting to the wrong side of the Cuddle. I chose to go with a glue stick because you can be very precise where what gets sticky, and with the 505 spray it's a little bit harder to control that, so I just use the stick. If I was going to use the spray, I would probably just want to go outside and spray the batting outside and then come back in and layer and baste the layers. Lay the Minky with right sides together and pin all the way around. I like using the flower head pins whenever I'm working with Cuddle because the large flat heads make them easy to spot and you won't accidentally stitch over them when you're stitching your Cuddle. So just pin all the way around, lots of pins, and it's a good idea to go ahead and kind of pin ahead like I did there and kind of anchor the layers together and then go back and pin between. Lots of pins, lots of pins. Pins are your best friend. This Cuddle tends to kind of slip on you when you're sewing, so lots of pins are good. Sew all the way around with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm just removing the pins as I come to them. Also, a walking foot is very helpful when you're sewing extra thick seams like this. So just another little tip. And my thread color is actually black because I wanted it to blend well with the Cuddle. These are these duck-billed scissors, and I'm going to try to use them for that purpose. See how this works. Working pretty good. Okay, And then I'm going to do some little snips out of the concave curves. I'm just going to do some straight on snips into the seam allowance here. And then the convex curves, I'm going to do some little pie wedges that I'll take out. These scissors are sharper. So pie wedges out of the convex and just little snips out of the concave. And the tighter the curve, the closer together the snips need to be. This is just so that when it's turned right side out, we have nice smooth seams. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the lining. So I have 2 pieces of polyester lining. I'm going to line those up and pin them. The lining is super slippery, so just make sure that everything is, the corners and the curves are lined up properly. It's going to be easiest if that gap is probably down here on this side. So 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to leave my gap there for turning the whole thing right side out later. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get my cuff ready. I'm just folding, this is the 7 by 19 piece. I'm folding it in half. And then I'm going to sew the short ends together. Again, I'm pinning both ends and then I pin in between. This is just straight, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, like that. Together, I've lined up the seams. Here, I'm going to go ahead and line those up with a stocking. And I'm just pinning those seams open to reduce bulk there. Okay, and then I'm going to go the other side and pin the opposite seam. And hopefully I can work in any extra. I can just ease that in. So on one side, then the other, and then make sure these stay even. Lots of pins. Ooh, this is gonna be so cute. And then this seam allowance isn't quite as critical. It's just gonna make your stocking slightly shorter if you do a bigger seam allowance. So I wouldn't stress too much about the seam allowance as much as making sure that all the raw edges are even here. I'm aiming for about 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I have a 6-inch piece of just black ribbon. Use whatever color coordinates. And then I want to put the ribbon back here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of lay that on that seam. Pin that in place and then sew it. It's so thick here, you kind of want to just get over it and make sure that everything is straight and aligned, and then go back and back stitch over it. You will sew over that again when you're sewing the lining into the seam, so it'll be extra reinforced. Okay, so I'm going to slide the stocking inside the lining. Like so. It'll be a little awkward, but you know, kind of stuff it down in there. Make sure the ribbon is out of the way. And then we're gonna sew around the top here again. And then we'll turn it right side out through the hole left in the lining. So this is the inside of the lining, and you could hand stitch this if you so desire. I'm just going to fold it like this so that the seam allowance is on the inside. I'm going to give it a little press, and then I'm just going to edge stitch it with the machine because it's going to be hidden down inside the stocking. I'm just creasing the edge there to have it be more crisp. Okay, so now this lining just goes down inside the stocking. I'm gonna go ahead and poke it all the way out. It is probably a good idea, now that I'm looking at this, to pick a lining that coordinates with the cuff rather than like the body of the stocking. Because if this was red, it would really show. Okay. Ooh, it's so cute.